Ever had a man raise a glass to your face and call you obsolete? That's what happened to me at the VFW hall. On a January night so cold the flag outside hung stiff as sheet metal, Marcus Reed lifted his whiskey expensive bottle, the kind you don't buy on a loan officer's salary, and smiled at the room like he owned it. "To the old cowboys who built this valley," he said, voice carrying over the wood stove's crackle, wet wool smell from 70 coats dripping snowmelt, "and to the young minds who'll save it from their stubbornness." The room erupted. Some laughed outright. Others looked away, embarrassed for me. My wife Trish stood 3 feet from Marcus and studied her champagne like it held answers. I sat there on a cold metal folding chair, coffee cup trembling in my weathered hands, forcing a smile that tasted like diesel fumes. One thought hammered through the noise. By morning, you'll learn who you just crossed. 3 hours later, I'd find the hotel receipt that changed everything. I woke before dawn, like I had for 47 years. The alarm hadn't gone off yet, didn't need to. A man's body learns the rhythm of work the way a bull learns the fence line. Trish's side of the bed was cold. Not just empty cold, cold like she'd been gone for hours. I dressed in the dark, jeans, flannel, the Carhartt jacket with the torn pocket I kept meaning to fix. Boots by the door, laces stiff from yesterday's snow. The house felt wrong, too quiet. Even the furnace seemed to be holding its breath. Outside, the thermometer on the porch read 6 below. My breath hung in the air like something solid. Frost coated every surface. Fence wire, truck hood, the iron gate with Brennan welded across the top. My grandfather had made that gate in 1947, same year he signed the deed. I walked the fence line toward the barn, checking latches by feel in the pre-dawn dark. The metal burned my bare hands. I should have worn gloves. But I never did. Needed to feel the land, feel what was wrong. Kaiser stood in the center of his pen, a dark mountain against darker sky. 1,500 pounds of black Angus, 20 years old, gentle as a dog. He turned his head when I approached but didn't move toward the feed trough. "Morning, boy," I said. He exhaled hard through his nostrils, steam in the frozen air. But he didn't come to me. Didn't bellow his usual greeting. I climbed the fence, dropped into the pen. His feed sat untouched from yesterday afternoon. The water trough had a skin of ice I had to break with my elbow. "What's wrong with you?" I ran my hand along his flank. Solid muscle, no heat, no swelling. He just stood there, watching me with those dark eyes that seemed to know things. Animals sense wrong before people do. My grandfather taught me that. I was filling the feed bucket when I heard tires on gravel. Headlights swept across the barn. Too early for visitors, way too early. Marcus Reed stepped out of a silver Lexus that had no business on a ranch road. He wore one of those expensive outdoor jackets, Patagonia or something, that cost more than my truck payment. His boots were clean. "Walt," he waved like we were old friends. "Didn't think you'd be up this early." "Been up for an hour," I said, kept my voice flat. "What do you need?" "Wanted to catch you before the day got away from us." He pulled a drone from his back seat. Expensive rig, professional grade. Thought I'd get some aerial shots of the property for the insurance assessment we talked about. We hadn't talked about any insurance assessment. "Kind of early for that," I said. "Best light." He grinned. "Plus, I've got a full schedule. You know how it is." I didn't know how it was. I'd never owned a drone or a Lexus or a jacket that cost $400. The kitchen door opened. Trish stepped onto the porch in her robe, coffee mug steaming. She didn't look surprised to see Marcus. She looked relieved. "Morning, Trish," Marcus called. "Marcus?" She nodded, almost smiled. "There's fresh coffee if you want some." "Maybe after." He powered up the drone. The propellers whined like angry hornets. "This'll just take 20 minutes. I watched him walk my property line with a machine that saw everything. Watched him take notes on his phone. Watched my wife watch him from the porch, not worried, but something else. Something that made my chest feel tight. When he climbed back into his Lexus, he lowered the window. "Oh, one more thing. The bank's doing a 90-day review on all agricultural loans. Standard stuff. But we'll need to go over some paperwork by end of April, modernize a few things." He said it casual, like he was mentioning the weather. "I'll help you through it. Make it easy." I've had the same loan structure for 15 years, I said. "Exactly." He smiled. "Time to update. Simplify. You'll thank me." He drove off, taillights disappearing down the ranch road. The sun was just starting to break over the mountains, turning the snow pink and gold. I stood there, in the cold, watching dust settle where his tires had been. From the barn, Kaiser still hadn't touched his feed. Inside, I heard the shower start. Trish, washing away the morning before I could ask her why Marcus knew to come at dawn. Why she hadn't seemed surprised. Why she'd offered him coffee like he'd been here before. I walked back to the bullpen, sat on the fence rail. The mountains were silent and massive in the early light. Older than any of us. Older than our problems. "I know, boy," I said to Kaiser. Something's wrong. The bull turned his head toward the house, toward the sound of running water and my wife singing softly, too softly for me to hear the words. As Marcus drove away, I noticed Trish watching from the kitchen window. Not worried, relieved. The VFW hall smelled like a wet dog had died in a wood stove. 70 people in winter coats, dripping snowmelt onto linoleum that hadn't been replaced since Vietnam, metal folding chairs scraped across the floor every time someone shifted weight. I didn't want to be there, Trish had insisted. It's important for my volunteer work, she'd said that morning. The library board will be there. People need to see us together. Us, like we were still a unit. I sat in the back row, coffee going cold in a styrofoam cup. Deputy Tom Lawson nodded at me from across the room. We'd gone to high school together, back when the school had 40 kids total. He looked uncomfortable in his dress uniform, kept tugging at his collar. Marcus stood near the front, holding court with the younger crowd. He'd changed since this morning. Different jacket, same expensive watch catching the light. He laughed loud, touched people's shoulders when he talked, made everyone feel like they were in on something. Trish stood beside him, not close, but not far either. She wore the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary 3 years ago. New perfume, something floral and sharp that I didn't recognize. The fundraiser chairman, Earl Matthews from the bank, tapped his glass. The room settled into that particular silence of people pretending to pay attention. Before we get to the official business, Earl said, Marcus Reed wanted to say a few words about the Valley's future. Marcus stepped forward. He didn't look at notes, didn't look nervous. I've lived here 3 years now, he began. And in that time, I've learned something important. This valley was built by tough people, hardworking people. He paused, let it sit. My own grandfather was a ranch hand, worked other men's land his whole life, never owned an acre. A few people nodded. I didn't move. But the world's changed, Marcus continued. The old ways, stubborn independence, refusing help, doing everything alone, those ways are killing family farms, killing ranches. His voice got softer, more earnest. I see it every day at the bank. Good people, proud people, losing everything because they won't adapt. He picked up his whiskey glass. Expensive bottle on the table beside him, the kind with a cork instead of a screw top. So I want to make a toast. He raised the glass. The room followed. To the old cowboys who built this valley. I felt it coming, felt it the way you feel weather changing. And to the young minds who'll save it from their stubbornness. The room erupted. Not everyone, but enough. Laughter bounced off the low ceiling. A few people actually clapped. The younger ones, mostly. The ones who'd moved here in the last 10 years, who worked remote jobs and thought ranching was romantic until they had to fix a fence in a blizzard. I sat there, coffee cup trembling in my hands. The metal chair was cold through my jeans. My face burned, despite the winter air still clinging to my coat. Trish didn't defend me, didn't roll her eyes at Marcus, or touch my arm, or do any of the things a wife does when someone disrespects her husband in public. She just took a longer sip of her champagne and looked at the floor. I forced a smile, short and polite, the kind that says, I can take a joke. The kind that keeps you from looking like the bitter old man Marcus had just painted you as. Deputy Tom caught my eye from across the room. He wasn't smiling. He looked like he'd just watched someone get hit and couldn't decide whether to step in. I stood up, quiet, set my coffee cup on the chair, walked toward the door while Marcus was still soaking up applause. The cold outside hit like a fist. Clean air, no wet wool, no wood smoke. My truck sat alone at the edge of the parking lot, frost already forming on the windshield. Walt, Deputy Tom had followed me out. He stood on the top step, breath fogging in the security light. You okay? He asked. That was out of line. I'm fine. You don't look fine. I unlocked the truck. The door hinges groaned in the cold. People say stupid things at parties. It's fine. Marcus say stupid things at the bank too? I looked at him. Tom's face was hard to read in the shadows, but his tone said he knew something. What do you mean? Nothing. He shook his head. Just be careful, Walt. I've seen him at the courthouse a few times. During the week, loan officers don't usually file deeds. File deeds for what? That's the thing. I don't know. Tom glanced back at the door. Inside, someone had started music. Just seems like he's always got paperwork, always got plans, and the people in those plans don't always come out ahead. I wanted to ask more, but the door opened. Trish stood backlit in the doorway, searching the parking lot. I should go, Tom said. You need anything, call me. I mean it. He went back inside. Trish saw my truck, saw me sitting in the driver's seat, and went back to the warmth. I didn't start the engine right away. Just sat there, hands on the wheel, watching frost creep across the glass. That's when I saw it. Passenger side floor mat, where Trish's purse had been sitting earlier. A small rectangle of paper, face down. I picked it up. Hotel receipt, the Summit Lodge in Billings, 83 miles from here, dated 2 weeks ago, Thursday, January 11th. The night Trish said the roads were too bad to visit her sister, the night she'd stayed home because of the blizzard warning. Room 214, 2 nights. My hands stopped shaking, everything stopped, my breathing, my heartbeat, the blood in my veins. The world narrowed to that slip of paper with its laser-printed numbers. She'd lied about the blizzard. She'd lied about her sister. And Marcus's cologne was still in my nose from when he'd leaned close at the barn this morning. The fishing pier sat on the Gallatin River, where it widened into a bend deep enough for trout. The wood was weathered gray-green, worn smooth by 50 years of boots and tackle boxes. Every Friday, at dawn, same spot, same ritual, Sam Hodge was already there when I arrived. He had his thermos open, steam rising into the cold air. The river ran low this time of year, ice forming at the edges, but the current still moved underneath, dark and constant. "You're late," Sam said. 10 minutes. That's late for you." He poured coffee into the thermos cap, handed it to me. "What's wrong?" I sat on the bench, felt the cold through my jeans. The pier creaked under my weight. Water lapped at the pilings below, soft, rhythmic, older than worry. "Marcus Reed," I said. Sam was 71, retired county clerk, 20 years older than me, but sharp as the day he'd started. He'd recorded every deed transfer, every property sale, every mortgage in this county from 1975 to 2015. People said Sam had the whole courthouse in his head. What about him? Sam baited his hook with practiced fingers, no fumbling, no wasted motion. I told him about the toast, the drone, the modernized paperwork comment, the hotel receipt I'd found. Didn't mention whose car, but Sam was smart enough to guess. He was quiet for a long time, cast his line. The lure hit the water with a soft plop, disappeared into the dark current. "I saw Marcus at the courthouse last Thursday," Sam said finally, "around 2 in the afternoon. And so?" "Loan officers don't file deeds, Walt. They review them, sure. But filing, that's for buyers, sellers, lawyers, people transferring property." He reeled in slowly, testing the weight. I watched him for 20 minutes. He went into the records room, came out with a folder. The coffee burned going down. Good burn. Reminded me I was still alive, still here. "Could be anything," I said. "Could be." Sam set his rod against the rail, turned to face me. "Or it could be what I've been hearing around town. 6 ranches in the last 18 months. All went under. All had Marcus as their loan officer. People lose ranches, it happens. Not like this." Sam opened his tackle box. Inside, beneath the lures and line, he had a small notebook, spiral-bound, water-stained, filled with his cramped handwriting. I started keeping track after the third one. Davis Place, Henderson Ranch, the old Morrison spread up north. All the same pattern. What pattern? Financial trouble. Marcus offers to help, restructure the loan, consolidate debt. Then 6 months later, the property transfers to a shell company none of us have heard of. He flipped pages, different company names each time, but same P.O. box, same filing attorney out of Helena. My hands were cold on the coffee cup. The sun was just starting to break over the mountains, turning the ice at the river's edge pink. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're next," Sam said. "That 90-day review?" he mentioned. "That's not standard. And modernizing paperwork?" He shook his head. "That means he wants you to sign something new, something that changes the terms." A fish jumped downstream. The splash echoed in the cold air. "What do I do?" "Don't sign anything without reading it. Bring it to me first." Sam reached into his tackle box again, pulled out a new fishing lure. Shiny silver, treble hooks still in the package. He handed it to me. "For Kaiser. Heard he wasn't eating." "It's a fishing lure." "I know what it is," Sam smiled. "But the card's what matters." Attached to the package was a business card. Creased, yellowed, 20 years old, Sam Hodge, county clerk. And on the back, in his handwriting, "Your grandpa signed my parents' deed in 48. I won't let his land get stolen." My throat felt tight. I put the card in my pocket. "I'll do some digging," Sam said. "See what I can find on those shell companies." "And Walt?" He picked up his rod again. "Earl Matthews has been acting strange lately. Saw him at the diner last week. When Marcus walked past, Earl tapped his pen 3 times on the counter. Earl only does that when something stinks." "Earl's the bank manager." "Exactly." Sam cast his line. "Which means maybe you're not alone in this." I sat there for another hour while Sam fished. Didn't talk much, didn't need to. The river kept moving, the sun climbed higher, and somewhere upstream a hawk called, hunting. When I got home, Trish's car was gone. A note on the kitchen table. Went to Billings, shopping with Linda. Back late. Linda was her sister, the one she'd supposedly visited 2 weeks ago during the blizzard that never came. I walked out to the barn. Kaiser was standing in the same spot as yesterday, feed still untouched. But when I climbed into the pen this time, I didn't try to make him eat. I just sat on an overturned bucket and talked. "I know, boy," I said. "You smell it too. Something wrong in the house. Something wrong with her." The bull turned his massive head toward me, exhaled soft through his nostrils. I sat there for 2 hours. Told him about my grandfather, about the deed signed in 1947, about promises made to the dead. Told him I wasn't giving up, wasn't signing anything, wasn't letting go. When I finally stood to leave, Kaiser walked to his feed trough, slow and deliberate. He lowered his head and started to eat, first time in 3 days. Animals know. They always know. That night, Trish slept in the guest room. Said I snored too loud, but we both knew better. The blizzard hit on a Tuesday. Weather Service called it a once-in-a-decade storm. 3 feet expected, winds up to 50 miles per hour, whiteout conditions through Thursday. I spent Monday preparing, moved the cattle closer to the barn, stacked hay where I could reach it, filled water troughs, checked the generator. By the time the first flakes started falling Tuesday morning, I was ready. Marcus wasn't. He showed up at noon, Lexus fishtailing up the ranch road, barely made it to the house before the visibility dropped to nothing. Wind howled like something alive, rattling windows, piling snow against the barn in drifts that would take days to clear. "Sorry to bother you," he said, stamping snow off those clean boots in my mudroom. "Got caught between appointments. Mind if I waited out here?" I minded. "But you don't turn a man away in a blizzard, even if you suspect he's sleeping with your wife." "Coffee's on," I said. He'd brought a leather portfolio, expensive, monogrammed. Set it on my kitchen table, like he owned the place. Trish appeared from the bedroom. She'd been resting, and her face did something complicated when she saw him. Relief and fear mixed together. "Marcus," she said, "the roads must be terrible." "Getting worse." He accepted the coffee mug she offered. Their fingers touched. Brief, but there. "Good thing I've got time. Walt and I need to go over some paperwork anyway." I sat down across from him. The kitchen smelled like coffee. And something else, his cologne, expensive and invasive, filling my house. He opened the portfolio, pulled out a stack of papers, maybe 40 pages, stapled in sets. The 90-day review I mentioned. Bank wants everything consolidated. Simpler structure, better terms. What's wrong with my current terms?" "Nothing wrong, just outdated." He spread the papers across the table. Dense paragraphs, legal language, numbers that swam together. "This modernizes everything. Rolls your operating loan and your land mortgage into one instrument. Lower interest rate, actually." Trish sat down beside me. "That sounds good, doesn't it?" "How much lower?" I asked. 1.5. Marcus turned pages, pointed at sections highlighted in yellow. "But the real benefit is simplification. Right now you've got 3 different payment schedules. This makes it 1, easier to track." Outside, the wind screamed. Snow piled against the window in waves, erasing the world. I tried to read the contract. The words kept shifting, legal phrases I half understood. Party of the first part, collateral instruments, subordination clause. My head felt thick, like I'd been breathing diesel fumes. "There's a lot here," I said. "Standard stuff." Marcus sipped his coffee, casual. "But we need to move on it. Bank's deadline is end of business Monday. If we don't have signatures by then, they'll initiate foreclosure proceedings." My head snapped up. "Foreclosure? I'm current on every payment." "You are. But the review flagged some covenant violations. Technical stuff. Property maintenance standards, insurance requirements." He waved his hand like it didn't matter. "Nothing major. But they want it cleaned up. And this new structure does that. Signed by Monday, everything's fine." "And if I don't?" Marcus's smile thinned. "Then we're in default territory. 90-day notice. After that, they can call the whole loan." Trish's hand found mine under the table. Cold fingers, trembling slightly. "Walt, maybe we should just sign it. If it fixes everything, I want to read it first." "Of course." Marcus checked his watch. "Though, with the storm, we're kind of on a clock. Power could go out, roads will be impassable for days. If you want me to take it back to the bank Friday, we need signatures tonight." The kitchen felt smaller. The walls pressing in, snow hitting the windows sounded like static, like the world trying to erase us. My phone was in my pocket. I wanted to call Sam, wanted to call Earl at the bank, wanted to verify any of this. But the wind was already taking down power lines. I could hear transformers popping in the distance, see lights flickering. "Let me think about it," I said. Marcus's jaw tightened, just for a second. Then the smile came back. "Sure, absolutely. Take your time." And he gathered the papers, left them stacked in front of me. "But, Walt, just so we're clear, if we don't have signatures by Monday morning, I can't stop what happens next." The lights flickered, died. The house went silent except for the wind. "There's the power," Marcus said. "Good thing I brought a flashlight." We sat in the dark kitchen for 10 minutes before I got the generator running. When the lights came back, Marcus was at the window, watching snow bury his Lexus. He'd be here all night, maybe 2 nights. My phone rang. Miracle it still had signal, Sam's number. "I need to take this," I said. I went to my office, shut the door. Sam's voice crackled through static. "Don't sign anything," he said. No greeting, no preamble. "How did you—" "Earl called me. He's at the bank, snowed in. Pulled Marcus's file." Sam's voice was urgent. "Walt, there's no 90-day review. There's no foreclosure proceeding. You're current on everything." My hands were shaking. "He's in my kitchen right now with papers." "Don't sign." I found the pattern. 6 ranches, all got the same paperwork. Consolidated loan structure. Sounds great on paper. But buried in the fine print, it transfers the deed from your name to a holding company. You become a renter on your own land. The room tilted. I sat down hard in my desk chair. "The holding company," Sam continued, "is registered to a P.O. box in Helena. Same box on all 6 transfers. Earl traced it through banking records. It's Marcus's ex-wife's address. He's using her to hide the shell company." Outside the office, I heard Trish laugh at something Marcus said, light and easy, like we were hosting a friend. "Can you prove it?" I asked. "Earl's documenting everything." "But Walt," Sam's voice dropped. "He says state banking investigators are already looking at Marcus. 3 complaints from other counties? If you sign that paper, you'll be the 7th victim, and it'll be a lot harder to get your land back." The call dropped, static, then nothing. I sat there in my office, listening to my wife and the man who was stealing my land share coffee in a blizzard. The wind rattled the windows, snow kept falling. And on my desk, I could see the reflection of papers spread across my kitchen table, waiting for a signature that would end everything. I couldn't get to town, couldn't verify Marcus's claims, couldn't check fence lines or property conditions through 3 feet of snow, couldn't even call a lawyer. The phone signal was already dying. He'd timed it perfectly. Trapped me in my own house with a deadline and a blizzard. When I walked back to the kitchen, Marcus was pouring himself more coffee. Comfortable, like he belonged here. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Fine," I said. Trish looked at me with those eyes I used to know. "Walt, please, if this fixes things, let's just sign it. I can't take the stress anymore." "Not we can't take it. Not you must be worried. I can't take it." Marcus slid a pen across the table. "Expensive, heavy, silver. It's really simple," he said. "Just 2 signatures, yours and Trish's, then we're done." Outside, the blizzard erased the world. Inside, my wife waited for me to surrender. And I realized she'd been waiting for this moment all along. I didn't sign. Marcus left Thursday morning when the plows finally cleared the main road. His Lexus was buried under 4 feet of snow. I pulled him out with my tractor, watched him drive away without thanking me, just a wave through tinted windows. Trish didn't speak to me for 2 days. Friday night, I was in the barn when I heard it. A sound no rancher wants to hear, a cow bellowing wrong. Not the normal call, but something desperate and afraid. The heifer was one of my younger ones, barely 3 years old. She was down in the corner of the barn, straining, eyes rolling white. Labor. But wrong. Too early. I called the vet. Roads were still bad, he said. 2 hours minimum, maybe 3. "Talk me through it," I said. So I delivered that calf alone by flashlight. Hands numb from cold and birth, the smell of blood and hay and fear filling the barn. The heifer cried the whole time. Not loud, just constant, like grief. The calf came out small, too small. I cleared its nose, rubbed it with burlap, tried everything my father taught me. It didn't breathe. I worked on it for 20 minutes. Chest compressions, clearing the airway again, warming it with my own body heat. The heifer watched with those dark eyes that knew before I did. The calf was dead before it hit the ground. Premature by a month, never had a chance. I sat there on the barn floor, straw sticking to my jeans, blood on my hands, holding a dead thing that never got to see daylight. The heifer nuzzled it once, then turned away. Some losses you prepare for, others just take. I buried the calf at dawn. Ground was still frozen 2 feet down. Took me 3 hours with a pickaxe to get deep enough. My back screamed. My hands bled through the gloves. When I came inside, covered in dirt and exhaustion, Trish was at the kitchen table with coffee and her laptop. "We need to talk," she said. "Are you about now?" "Yes, now." Her voice had an edge I didn't recognize. "Marcus called. The deadline is Monday. Walt, if you don't sign, we lose everything." I washed my hands in the sink. Dirt and blood swirled down the drain. "He's lying." "About what?" "All of it. There's no foreclosure. No deadline." Sam checked. She stood up. "Sam, you're taking advice from a retired clerk who spends all day fishing?" Sam knows more about property law than Marcus ever will. Sam is 70 years old and paranoid. Her hands were shaking. Coffee sloshed over the rim of her mug. Marcus is trying to help us. Why can't you see that? I dried my hands slowly, looked at my wife in the morning light, really looked at her, the woman I'd promised forever to, who'd promised the same back. How much do you owe? I asked. The color drained from her face. What? Credit cards. How much? She set the mug down, wouldn't meet my eyes. That's not... How much, Trish? Silence. Just the furnace humming and the clock on the wall counting seconds. 60,000, she whispered. Maybe a little more. The number hit like a fist. Jesus Christ. It's not what you think. It was shopping, yes, but also we needed things. The house needed things. You were always working, always at the ranch, and I was alone, and her voice cracked. Marcus said he could make it disappear, restructure it into the loan. Nobody would know. In exchange for what? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. The hotel receipt was still in my truck. Evidence of a price already paid. If you don't sign, she said finally, I lose everything. They'll come after my assets, my car, my retirement, everything. In the ranch? What about it? If I sign Marcus's paper, what happens to the ranch? She looked away. We keep it, obviously. As renters, I said, not owners. That's what the fine print says. We'd be paying rent on my grandfather's land. That's not true. Marcus wouldn't. Marcus is stealing from us, from me, and you helped him. And the words sat between us like a dead thing, like that calf I'd just buried. Trish grabbed her coat. I'm going out. Where? Anywhere but here. She left. The house felt bigger without her, emptier. I stood at the kitchen window and watched her car disappear down the ranch road, the same road my grandfather had graded by hand in 1947. My phone rang. Nora, my daughter, hadn't heard from her in 3 months. Dad? Her voice sounded wrong, worried. Is everything okay? Why wouldn't it be? Mom called me last week. She sounded, I don't know, stressed. She wouldn't tell me why. A pause. Dad, what's going on? I could lie, say everything was fine, maintain the pride that said a man handles his own problems. Or I could tell the truth to the one person who still called me Dad, instead of Walt. I need help, I said. The words felt like surrender, like weakness, but also like the first honest thing I'd said in weeks. I'm coming home, Nora said immediately. I'll get a flight tomorrow. You don't need to... Dad? Her voice got firm, the way it did when she was 12 and decided something. I'm coming home. After we hung up, I walked back to the barn. Kaiser was at his feed trough, eating steady. The heifer stood alone in her pen, not calling anymore, just standing. I sat on an overturned bucket and let the exhaustion take me. The smell of hay and cattle and dirt. The sound of Kaiser chewing, of wind through the barn gaps, of a ranch still breathing despite everything trying to kill it. Some losses prepare you for others. That calf taught me something. Not everything can be saved, but some things still could. The diner sat on Main Street between the hardware store and the old movie theater that hadn't shown a film since 2003. Red vinyl booths, coffee that tasted like the pot hadn't been cleaned since Carter was president, waitress who'd been there 30 years and knew everyone's order before they sat down. I went there Tuesday morning for eggs and information. Got both, neither one easy to swallow. I was halfway through my breakfast when I heard it. 2 tables over. The Morrison kid, ranch up north that went under last year, talking to his girlfriend. My dad's still bitter about it, he said. But honestly, Marcus was right. Dad was too stubborn to modernize, too stuck in his ways. The girlfriend murmured something I couldn't hear. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, the old generation needs to step aside. Let people who understand modern business take over. The eggs turned to ash in my mouth. I paid, left a tip, walked out before I said something that would make the newspaper. Deputy Tom was parked across the street, filling out paperwork in his cruiser. He saw me, climbed out. Walt? He looked uncomfortable, like he had news I wouldn't like. What? Marcus filed something at the sheriff's office yesterday. A concerned citizen report. Tom pulled out his notebook, read from it. Alleges you're showing signs of diminished capacity, refusing reasonable financial advice, neglecting property maintenance. He's requesting a wellness check. The street tilted. He's trying to say I'm senile? He's not saying it directly, just expressing concern. But Walt, Tom closed the notebook. He's building a case, making it look like you're not competent to manage your own affairs. I'm 67, not 90. I know that. You know that. But on paper? Tom shook his head. He's smart. He's documenting everything. The refused loan modification. The barn that needs a new roof. Yeah, he filed photos with the county. The fact that you're still using equipment from the 80s. That equipment works fine. I believe you. But he's making it look like you're a confused old man who needs help. Tom's voice got quieter. And if he can get a judge to agree, he can petition for financial conservatorship. Take over your accounts, your decisions, everything. I leaned against Tom's cruiser. The metal was cold through my jacket. Down the street, the hardware store was opening. Same family had owned it for 60 years. Same wooden floors, same smell of oil and sawdust. How many years before Marcus decided they needed to modernize too? What do I do? I asked. Fight it. Document everything on your end. Show you're competent, capable, making sound decisions. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. For what it's worth, I don't believe him, but I'm not a judge. When I got home, Trish's car was in the drive. So was another vehicle, a rental sedan, Montana plates. Nora stood on the porch, overnight bag at her feet, looking exactly like her mother had 30 years ago. Same eyes, same stubborn jaw, same way of standing with her weight on one hip like she was ready for a fight. Dad, she said. I hugged her, first time in 3 years. She smelled like airport coffee and rental car air freshener, but underneath that, she still smelled like my daughter. You didn't have to come, I said. Yes, I did. She pulled back, studied my face. You look tired. Long week. Mom won't talk to me. She locked herself in the guest room when I got here 20 minutes ago. Nora picked up her bag. So why don't you tell me what's really going on? We sat at the kitchen table. I made fresh coffee. Told her everything. The party, the toast, the hotel receipt, Marcus's paperwork, the blizzard, Sam's investigation, the wellness check Tom had just warned me about. She listened without interrupting, pulled out her laptop, started taking notes. I work in tech, she said. I know how to find things online. Let's see what Marcus Reed really is. An hour later, she had a file. Social media posts showing Marcus at restaurants that cost more than my truck payment, a LinkedIn profile listing properties he consulted on, a divorce filing from 8 years ago, his ex-wife citing financial irresponsibility and controlling behavior. Dad, Nora said, turning the laptop toward me. Look at this. A property transfer record. The Henderson Ranch, one of the 6 Sam had mentioned, sold to Summit Holdings LLC 18 months ago. The registered agent, Jennifer Reed, Marcus's ex-wife. He's using her to hide it, Nora said. All the properties probably go through her. She gets a cut, he gets control, and on paper it looks like unrelated business transactions. My phone rang. Sam, get to the pier, he said, now, and bring Nora if she's there. This is big. The fishing pier was empty except for Sam and Earl Matthews. The bank manager looked smaller out of his suit, wearing a Carhartt jacket and jeans like a regular person. His face was gray with stress. I could lose my job for this, Earl said before we'd even sat down. But I can't watch it happen again. He had a folder. Printouts, bank records, loan documents. Marcus has been doing this for 3 years, Earl said. Always the same pattern. Target a ranch that's struggling. Offer help. Get them to sign a consolidated loan that looks better on paper, but actually transfers the deed to a holding company. Within 6 months, he raises the rent until they can't pay. Then he forecloses and sells the property to developers. 6 ranches, Sam added. Almost 1,500 acres total, all sold to the same development company out of Bozeman. The bank doesn't know? I asked. They know something's off. That's why I've been documenting. Earl tapped his pen 3 times on the bench. State banking investigators are already looking at him. Started the audit 3 weeks ago. But it's slow. They need time to build the case. How much time? Nora asked. 60 days, maybe 90. He wants Dad to sign by Monday, Nora said. 4 days. Don't. Earl looked at me directly. Don't sign anything. I've been stalling on the foreclosure proceedings he filed. There are no proceedings, it's all fake. But if you sign, if you give him that deed, it becomes real. Sam pulled something from his tackle box. A photocopy of a document, old and water-stained. Your grandfather's original deed? Sam said. From 1947? I pulled it from the county archives. I took it. The paper was fragile. The ink faded, but I could read it. My grandfather's signature. The property description. And at the bottom, in small print I'd never noticed before, this land shall remain in the Brennan family bloodline. Any transfer to non-family entities shall be considered void under Montana Homestead Protection Act of 1947. What does that mean? I asked. It means, Sam said slowly, that even if Marcus tricks you into signing, even if his paperwork looks legal, this clause makes it unenforceable. The original deed has a bloodline protection that's still valid under state law. So I can't lose the ranch? Not to Marcus, not to any shell company. Sam smiled. Your grandfather was a careful man. He built protections into that deed that are still good 77 years later. Earl leaned forward. But here's the thing. Marcus doesn't know about this clause. He's been using a simplified deed template from the bank. Never checked the original. That's his weakness, Nora said. He's lazy, arrogant, assumes nobody will dig into the old records. The state investigators need time, Earl said again. If you can hold out until they finish the audit, Marcus gets arrested, not just fired. Bank fraud. Elder exploitation, he goes to prison. The river moved beneath us. Ice was melting at the edges. You could hear it cracking, breaking free, flowing again. How do I hold out? I asked. He's filed a wellness check. He's got Trish convinced we're in foreclosure. He's building a public case that I'm incompetent. We fight back, Nora said, with documentation, with truth. Sam handed me something else from his tackle box, a business card. Montana State Banking Investigation Unit, Special Agent Robert Chen. Old fishing buddy, Sam said. He's leading the audit. I already called him. Told him you're being pressured to sign. He said if you can hold out until April 15th, he'll have everything he needs to make arrests. April 15th. 3 weeks. Can you do it? Earl asked. I looked at my daughter, at Sam, at Earl, who was risking his job, at the deed my grandfather signed before I was born, with protections he built in because he understood the future better than I'd given him credit for. Yeah, I said, I can do it. I found Trish in the guest room, packing a suitcase, clothes folded neat, toiletries already in a bag, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd been planning this for a while. You're leaving, I said from the doorway. She didn't stop packing. Marcus said he could get me a short-term rental in Billings, just until things calm down. I mean, things won't calm down if you leave. They won't calm down if I stay. She zipped the suitcase. Finally looked at me. Walt, I can't do this anymore. The debt collectors are calling. Marcus says if you don't sign by Monday, they'll come after my assets. My car, everything. Well, Marcus is lying. Everyone keeps saying that. You, Sam, Nora. Her voice broke. But the debt is real. The calls are real. I'm drowning, Walt, and you're too busy protecting this ranch to throw me a rope. I stepped into the room, sat on the edge of the bed we'd stopped sharing weeks ago. The mattress creaked. Same one we'd bought 20 years ago. Same one where we'd made plans and promises and a daughter. How did it start? I asked. With Marcus. She was quiet for a long time. Sat down in the chair by the window. Outside, the sun was setting, turning the snow pink and gold. He came to the house last year, she said. You were at an auction in Great Falls. He said the bank was reviewing our loan, just routine. Asked to see our financial records. She twisted her wedding ring, on off, on off. I showed him everything, including the credit card statements. And he saw the debt, $63,000, shopping, mostly, online orders I couldn't stop making. It made me feel better, having things, new things. She looked at me. You were always working, always worried about the ranch. I was alone in this house, and I just wanted to feel something other than invisible. And the words should have made me angry, should have felt like an attack. But mostly they just felt sad. He said he could help, Trish continued. Roll the debt into a business loan, make it disappear. All I had to do was convince you to consolidate everything with the bank. Make it look like your idea. And in exchange? She didn't answer, didn't need to. The hotel receipt had told that story months ago. I didn't know, she said finally, about the shell company, about the other ranches. I thought he was helping. I thought, her voice cracked. I thought if I could just fix my mistake, fix the debt, we could go back to how we were. We can't go back. I know. She wiped her eyes. That's why I'm leaving. I sat there, watching my wife cry in the chair by the window, and felt something I didn't expect. Not anger, not betrayal. Just exhaustion and a kind of grief for something that had died so slowly we hadn't noticed until it was already gone. The debt won't disappear if you leave, I said. Marcus doesn't have the power to erase it. He never did. Then what do? Face it. File bankruptcy if you have to, but don't run. And don't let him use you to steal my grandfather's land. She looked at me with red eyes. I already helped him try. How do you forgive that? I don't know if I can. The truth tasted bitter. But I know I can't watch you destroy yourself trying to fix something that was broken before the debt ever happened. We sat in silence. The sun disappeared behind the mountains. The room got dark, but neither of us moved to turn on a light. He called this morning, Trish said quietly. Marcus said if you don't sign by Monday, he's filing a petition for financial conservatorship. Says he has documentation that you're not competent to manage your affairs. I know. Deputy Tom told me. Is it true? About the bloodline protection in the deed? Yeah, Sam found it. Then why is Marcus still pushing? If he can't take the ranch anyway, she stopped. Unless he doesn't know. He doesn't. He's been using a simplified template. Never checked the original 1947 deed. Trish stood, walked to her suitcase, but she didn't pick it up. I could tell him, she said. Warn him off before this goes any further. Or you could help me. Help you how? State investigators are auditing him. They need 3 more weeks. If we can stall until April 15th, they'll have everything they need to arrest him. And he'll know I betrayed him. You already betrayed me, I said. Not cruel, just fact. Question is whether you're going to make it mean something. She was quiet for a long time. Then she unpacked the suitcase. Slow, methodical. Put her clothes back in the dresser drawer she'd emptied. I'm still sleeping in the guest room, she said. I know. And I don't know if I'll ever move back. I know that too. She walked past me to the door, stopped, didn't turn around. I'm sorry, she said, for all of it. Me too. After she left, I sat in the dark guest room for a long time. The house creaked around me, wind through the gaps, furnace cycling, all the small sounds of a structure holding itself together through another night. My phone buzzed. Nora, texting from the kitchen. Mom just told me she's staying. What did you say to her? The truth, I typed back. Outside, I heard the barn door slide open. Footsteps in the snow. When I looked out the window, I saw Nora walking toward Kaiser's pen, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. Tomorrow, Earl would call with a plan. Sam would keep digging through records. The investigators would build their case, one document at a time. But tonight, I had my daughter home. My wife hadn't left. And the deed my grandfather signed in 1947 sat on my desk, bloodline protection intact, promising that some things endure, even when everything else falls apart. Monday was 3 days away. Marcus would expect an answer. I already knew what it would be. Earl called Saturday morning. Monday, 9 a.m. I scheduled a loan review meeting at the bank. Told Marcus it's routine, but the state investigators will be there. He'll know something's wrong, I said. He won't. We told him it's about updating our internal audit procedures. Compliance stuff. He thinks he's coming to explain why your loan needs restructuring. Earl's voice was steady. Bring the original 1947 deed. The investigators want to see it. Will he be arrested? If everything goes the way Agent Chen thinks it will, yes. They have enough for bank fraud and elder exploitation. Multiple counts, a pause. Walt, you need to understand. Once this starts, it gets public. Court filings, newspaper, everything. Trish's name will be in the documents. I looked out the kitchen window. Trish was in the yard with Nora, helping her string a new fence line. They'd been working together all morning, not talking much, just the rhythm of shared work. I know, I said. Sunday evening, Sam came by with his tackle box. Inside, beneath the lures and line, he had a folder. Agent Chen wanted you to see this, Sam said. He spread papers across my kitchen table. Bank records, property transfers, email chains. 7 ranches total, not 6. The 7th was processing when they started the investigation. To whose? The Whitmore place down south near Ennis. Sam pointed at a signature. They signed Marcus's paperwork 3 weeks ago. By the time the investigators finish, Whitmore will have lost everything. I studied the documents. Same pattern. Consolidated loan, deed transfer buried in fine print, shell company registered to Marcus's ex-wife. Can they stop it? If Marcus gets arrested tomorrow, maybe. The transfer is still in review, but it's close. Sam closed the folder. That's why timing matters. Every day he's free, he can do this to someone else. Nora came in from the barn, snow on her boots, cheeks red from cold. Kaiser's feet is low. I'll pick up more tomorrow after... She stopped, saw our faces. What happened? Nothing yet, I said. But tomorrow morning, it all ends. That night, I couldn't sleep. Walked out to the barn at 3 a.m. I sat with Kaiser in the dark. The bull was calm, chewing hay, steam from his nostrils visible in my flashlight beam. Big day tomorrow, I told him. He exhaled soft, patient, like he knew something I was still learning. Monday morning came cold and clear. No wind, no clouds, just hard blue sky and temperature below 0. The kind of morning that makes your lungs hurt and your eyes water. I dressed in my good jeans. The flannel shirt Nora had given me 2 Christmases ago. The jacket that didn't have a torn pocket. I looked like myself, just cleaner. Trish was in the kitchen, coffee already made. She wore the black dress from the VFW party. Different perfume now, something subtle. I'm coming with you, she said. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She set down her mug. Whatever happens in that bank, I was part of it. I need to face it. Nora drove my truck, but she wanted the wheel, said I needed to focus. Sam met us in the bank parking lot, tackle box in hand, like he was going fishing instead of to a fraud investigation. Agent Chen is already inside, Sam said. 2 other investigators. Earl has them in the conference room. And Marcus? Not here yet, due at 9. We walked in at 8:45. The bank smelled like burnt coffee and copier toner and fluorescent lights. Diane at the front desk looked nervous. "Mr. Mercer," she said, "they're waiting for you in conference room B." Agent Chen was younger than I expected, maybe 40, dark suit, no-nonsense handshake. He had two others with him, a woman with an iPad, and a man who looked like he'd been auditing banks since Carter was president. "Mr. Brennan," Chen said, "thank you for coming. I know this isn't easy." Earl sat at the head of the table, looking smaller than usual. Folders stacked in front of him. Years of documentation. "Did you bring the deed?" Chen asked. I pulled it from my jacket. The 1947 original, leather cover cracked and water-stained, my grandfather's signature still visible at the bottom. Chen put on reading glasses, studied it carefully. "The bloodline clause is right here," Sam said, pointing. "Montana Homestead Protection Act of 1947, still enforceable under current state law." Chen smiled, thin, satisfied. "Mr. Reed has been using a simplified deed template for 3 years. He's never checked originals. Never verified protections." He set the deed down carefully. "This is the mistake that ends him." At 8:58, Marcus walked in. He saw me first. Surprise flickered across his face, then smoothed into his professional smile. Saw Trish, and the smile faltered. Saw Agent Chen and the other investigators, and the smile died completely. "What's this?" Marcus asked Earl. "Sit down, Mr. Reed," Chen said. He wasn't asking. Marcus sat, slowly. His expensive watch caught the fluorescent light. Chen opened a folder. "Mr. Reed, I'm Special Agent Robert Chen with the Montana State Banking Investigation Unit. We've been conducting an audit of your loan portfolio for the past 6 weeks." "I don't understand." "7 properties," Chen continued. 7 ranches where you convinced the owners to sign consolidated loan agreements. 7 deed transfers to Summit Holdings LLC, a shell company registered to your ex-wife. 7 cases of bank fraud and elder financial exploitation. Marcus's face went white. Those were legitimate loan modifications. They were theft. Chen slid papers across the table. Bank records, property transfers, email chains between Marcus and his ex-wife. You systematically targeted struggling ranches, manipulated the owners into signing fraudulent paperwork, and transferred their property to a company you control. "I want a lawyer." "You'll need one." Chen nodded to the man with the iPad. "Mr. Reed, you're under arrest for bank fraud, wire fraud, and elder financial exploitation. Multiple counts." The conference room door opened. 2 county deputies walked in. One of them was Tom. Marcus stood. "This is a mistake. I was helping these people. They were failing. They needed honest advice," Chen said. "Not theft." Tom read him his rights. The words I'd heard on TV 100 times, but never thought I'd hear in person, in this bank, about a man who'd stood in my kitchen and smiled while trying to steal my grandfather's land. Marcus's hands were cuffed behind his back. His expensive jacket bunched awkwardly. His watch caught the light one more time. As Tom let him out, Marcus looked at Trish, not angry, just desperate. "You told them," he said. Trish didn't answer, just watched him go. The conference room was silent after they left. Just the hum of fluorescent lights and the sound of Earl tapping his pen 3 times on the table. Chen turned to me. "Mr. Brennan, your property is safe. The bloodline clause in your original deed makes any transfer invalid. You'll need to file some paperwork to officially void the consolidated loan agreement, but that's straightforward." "What about the others?" I asked. "The 6 ranches he already took." "We're working on that. Some of the transfers may be reversible. Others," Chen shook his head. "It depends on how far the sales progressed, but Marcus won't profit from any of them. All assets will be seized." Earl slid a document across the table. "This voids the loan consolidation. Your original terms are reinstated. You're current on all payments. Everything goes back to how it was. Except it didn't. Nothing goes back. You only go forward, carrying what you've learned." Agent Chen stood, collected his folders. "The Whitmore Ranch, the 7th property, we might be able to stop that transfer. Thanks to your timing." He shook my hand. "You did the right thing. Coming forward, holding out, it matters." And after they left, it was just me, Trish, Nora, Sam, and Earl in the conference room. The morning sun came through the windows. Outside, Marcus was being put into a patrol car. A few people on Main Street had stopped to watch. Earl handed me back the 1947 deed. "Keep this safe. Your grandfather was smarter than any of us gave him credit for." I held the deed carefully. Leather worn smooth by 3 generations of Brennan hands. Ink faded but still readable. Protection built in 77 years ago, waiting for the moment it would matter most. "Thank you," I said to Earl. "You risked a lot. Some things are worth the risk." And he packed up his folders. "Besides, I'm retiring in June anyway. Might as well go out doing something right. The story hit the newspaper Tuesday morning. Front page, below the fold, local loan officer arrested in multi-ranch fraud scheme. By noon, everyone in the valley knew. By evening, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Some called to apologize. The ones who'd laughed at Marcus's toast, who'd sided with progress over stubbornness. Deputy Tom stopped by with a casserole his wife made, her way of saying sorry without having to find the words others called with anger. The Morrison kid's father, who'd lost his ranch last year, wanted to know if there was a lawsuit he could join. The Henderson family, gone to Arizona after their foreclosure, called from a number I didn't recognize. Their voices shook with something between rage and grief. "We trusted him," Mrs. Henderson said. "He seemed so helpful." I didn't know what to tell her. That trust is the weapon people like Marcus use best, that good intentions pave the road. They walk us down. "I'm sorry," I said instead, and meant it. By Wednesday, the calls slowed. The newspaper moved on to other stories. Life has a way of closing over scandal, like water over a thrown stone. But the valley remembered. At the hardware store, the owner, same family for 60 years, shook my hand. "You stood your ground," he said. "That matters." At the diner, the waitress brought me pie I didn't order. On the house, for doing the right thing. I wasn't sure I'd done the right thing. I just refused to do the wrong one. Sometimes that's all you get. Trish moved out on Thursday. Not dramatic, no shouting, no slammed doors, just boxes in her car, the guest room emptied. A note on the kitchen table that said she'd found an apartment in Billings, short-term lease, 6 months to figure things out. "I need space," she told Nora. Not me. She couldn't look at me when she said goodbye. To deal with the debt, to figure out who I am without shopping or Marcus or this ranch. "Are you coming back?" Nora asked. Trish looked at the house, at the mountains beyond, at the life she'd tried to escape through credit cards and affairs and other people's promises. "I don't know," she said. She drove away in the afternoon, gravel crunching under her tires, and I didn't stop her. Some people need to leave to find out what they're leaving. Some never figure it out at all. Nora stayed. "Just for a few weeks," she said. "Help with calving season. Make sure you're okay." But the weeks stretched. She set up a temporary office in the tack room, took client calls while Kaiser bellowed in the background, said the quiet helped her think, said maybe architecture and ranching weren't so different. Both about building something that lasts, both about understanding the land beneath. Calving season came early that year, first one born on April 10th, just after dawn. A heifer's calf, healthy and strong, wobbling to its feet while the morning sun turned the snow gold. I delivered it with Nora's help, her first time. She wasn't squeamish, didn't hesitate when I needed an extra pair of hands. When the calf finally came, wet and perfect and bellowing, she laughed with relief and exhaustion. "It's alive?" she said, like she'd forgotten things could be born instead of just dying. "Yeah," I said. "It is." We cleaned up together, the smell of birth and hay and spring earth mixing in the barn. Kaiser watched from his pen, calm and knowing, like he'd been waiting for this moment. The heifer that had lost her calf in February stood at the fence line, watching. When we brought the healthy calf near, she called to it, soft, maternal, a sound I hadn't heard from her since the loss. "She remembers," Nora said. "They always do." That afternoon, Sam came by with something wrapped in brown paper. We sat on the porch with coffee, watching the mountains emerge from winter. "Got you something," Sam said, handing me the package. Inside was a fishing lure. Custom engraved, silver and brass, treble hooks sharp as promises. The engraving read, "Brennan Land, 1947 forever." "Figured you'd want something to remember," Sam said. "I'm not likely to forget." "Not for you, for whoever comes after." He nodded toward the barn where Nora was working. "So they know what it took to keep it." I held the lure in my hand. Heavy, solid, the kind of weight that reminds you something's real. "Thank you," I said. "Thank yourself. You're the one who wouldn't sign." We sat in silence, drinking coffee, watching the sun move across the valley. The snow was melting fast now, creeks running high, mud everywhere, the land waking up from winter. "Marcus's ex-wife is cooperating with investigators," Sam said, "giving them everything. Bank records, property transfers, all of it. Turns out she didn't know about half of what he was doing. Will she face charges?" "Probably, but lighter ones. She's the key to recovering some of the properties." Sam set down his coffee cup. "The Whitmore place. They voided the transfer. Family gets to keep their ranch." "Because we came forward?" "Because you held out long enough." Sam stood, stretched. "Timing matters, Walt. Always has." After he left, I walked out to the back pasture. The fence line my grandfather built, the gate with Brennan welded across the top, The land that stretched green and brown toward mountains that had watched us all come and go. I hung the fishing lure on the barn door, right above the 1947 deed, which I'd framed and mounted where I could see it every morning when I fed Kaiser. The leather was cracked, the ink faded, but my grandfather's signature was still clear. Walter Brennan Sr. Same first name, same stubborn blood, same refusal to let go of what mattered. He'd known, somehow. 77 years ago, he'd known that someone would come, someone with better words and cleaner boots and promises that sounded like help but tasted like theft. So, he'd written protection into that deed. Bloodline clause, homestead rights, legal language that meant this land stays Brennan land. You were right, old man, I said to the empty barn. To the ghost of a grandfather I'd never met but whose shadow I'd lived in my whole life. You were right about everything. That evening, Nora and I ate dinner on the porch. Simple food, steaks from our own cattle, potatoes from the root cellar, bread she'd made that morning 'cause she'd gotten curious about sourdough. I've been thinking, she said, cutting her steak, about staying longer, maybe through summer. And your firm okay with that? They'll have to be. I've got vacation time saved up, and most of my work is remote anyway. She looked at the mountains. I forgot how quiet it is here, how big the sky gets. You don't miss Seattle? I miss coffee shops and Thai food and not having to drive 40 minutes for groceries. She smiled. But I don't miss the noise, the constant rush. Everyone trying to build the next thing without appreciating what's already there. Your mother used to feel that way. I'm not Mom. Nora's voice was firm. I know what I'm choosing, and why. After dinner, we sat on the porch until the stars came out. Millions of them, bright and cold, the kind of darkness you only get this far from cities. Dad, Nora said, what Mom did, the affair, the debt, helping Marcus, do you think you'll ever forgive her? I thought about it, really thought. I don't know, I said finally, but I think maybe forgiveness isn't always the point. Sometimes you just have to let people go so they can figure out who they are without you. That's sad. Yeah, I said, but it's also true. The first robin of spring called from the fence line. Too early maybe, but there it was anyway, singing in the dark, promising something better ahead. Inside, the 1947 deed hung in the barn. Outside, the land stretched toward mountains. And on the porch, my daughter and I sat together, drinking coffee that had finally stopped tasting bitter. Some battles you win with noise. This one I won with receipts, patience, and my grandfather's warning from 77 years ago. But the real victory wasn't in the winning, it was in the staying. In the morning feed, and the fence mending, and the calves being born, and the land remembering who loved it, and who tried to sell it. Marcus thought silence was surrender. Turned out it was just preparation. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The thermometer read 42 degrees, warm enough that I didn't need gloves for the first time since November. The mountains were losing their snowcaps, streams running high and loud, mud everywhere. I opened my grandfather's field notebook, the one he'd kept from 1947 until his death in 1982. Leather cover worn smooth, pages yellowed and stained, entries written in careful pencil. Dates, weather, fence repairs, calving notes, the small mundane details of a life spent on land. I wrote the date. April 28th, temperature, wind direction. Then, first healthy calf of spring, heifer and baby both strong. North fence repaired, Nora staying through summer, continuing his work, keeping the record. Down at the iron gate, fresh wildflowers grew where snow had been, yellow and purple, pushing through mud like they'd been waiting all winter for permission, life returning without asking. Nora's truck was in the drive. She'd extended her stay twice, told her firm she was taking a sabbatical, said maybe she'd look at properties nearby, keep a place for weekends. We'd see. Some decisions don't need rushing. The bank sold Marcus's assets at auction last week. His Lexus went for pennies on the dollar. His fancy drone, his expensive watch, everything that had made him look successful, scattered to buyers who didn't know the story. Or maybe they did and bought them anyway. Because, in the end, objects don't carry guilt. Only people do. Trish called once, short conversation. She'd found a therapist in Billings, joined a support group for spending addiction, gotten a part-time job at a title company. Small steps, baby steps, she didn't ask to come home. I didn't ask her to. Some doors close. You can't hold them open with hope alone. The Whitmore Ranch was saved, the transfer voided, Marcus's fraud exposed before it could finalize. I got a card from them last week. Simple. Just thank you for not giving up. I kept it on my desk, next to the 1947 deed. The Henderson family was fighting to recover their property. Legal battle, long odds, but they had Agent Chen on their side now. Sometimes justice is slow. Sometimes it still comes. From the barn, I heard Kaiser's low bellow. Morning greeting. The same sound for 47 years, different bull, same ritual. Feed, check gates, walk fence lines, notice what changed overnight. The work that built this place, the work that would outlast me. The sun cleared the tree line, warming the porch boards. The fields stretched green toward the horizon. My grandfather's transit sat on the table beside me. Brass and glass and precision. Used to survey these fences in 1947. Nora wanted to learn how to use it. Said maybe her niece could learn someday too if she ever had kids. Pass it down. Keep the precision. Some battles you win with lawyers and evidence and patient men who fish while they investigate. This one I won by remembering who I was when I stood alone. By trusting land over promises. By refusing to sign papers I didn't understand just because someone smiled and called it help. Marcus thought stubbornness was weakness. Thought the old ways were dying. Thought men like me would roll over when the world got complicated. He was wrong. The land remembers who loved it and who tried to sell it. My grandfather was right about that. Right about checking the paper trail, about reading the fine print, about building protection that would outlast him. They thought silence was surrender. Turned out it was just a man knowing his ground. I finished my coffee. Set the cup down on the porch rail where 3 generations of Brennan men had set theirs. Stood up, felt my back complain, ignored it like always. Kaiser was waiting. The fence needed checking. Spring calves needed counting. The land needed walking. Same work as yesterday, same work as tomorrow. And that wasn't stubbornness, that was survival.